location gets easily spoofed or hacked. And that's a problem for most apps on your phone and for real-world applications like smart cities, self-driving cars, automated supply chains. We came up with this network of IoT devices to bond witnesses or cryptographic handshakes. As devices have more interactions, we have more certainty that certain data points are true and correct.
Why does location matter?
A lot of DePINs, they need proof of location, for example. They start collecting data and then they think their nodes are somewhere distributed in the world, but they aren't. Someone has them all in their basement and sends you fake data. We were the first crypto company in the US to be qualified by the SEC to be able to sell our shares to non-accredited investors.
Which areas of Web3 do you see as the biggest use cases when it comes to location?
RWA is going to be huge. It's going to be bigger than the utility tokens. The only thing holding it back is government regulation.
Hey Markus, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Sina?
Yeah, very well, thanks. Great to have you on the We Are DePIN podcast. Wanted to have you on for a while. I guess like you guys are one of the sort of OG DePIN providers in the market. So it would have been bad if we didn't have you on the podcast. So it'd be great to hear like your origin story, because I don't think many people know that you guys are one of the earliest ones.
Yeah, awesome to be on this podcast, really. Like, you guys are so big already, and I think you're going to be one of the biggest DePIN podcasts in the world. And so I'm super excited to be here with you today. Yeah, so we started in 2018. Actually, our mainnet launched half a year before Helium's. And so we are the original DePIN. DePIN was invented in 22 by Messari, right? But we were there and didn't know that we were DePIN. Then we thought, geospatial and location project, because we realized location gets easily spoofed or hacked, right? You can download a GPS spoofing app and pretend that you're in London right now while you're still in San Diego. And that's a problem for most apps on your phone and for real-world applications like smart cities, self-driving cars, automated supply chains, and you name it. And so we came up with this network of IoT devices, where those devices do bond witnesses or cryptographic handshakes. And then as you have these devices have more interactions, right, you have more certainty that certain data points are true and correct, and you have relational maps and so on. You can layer things on top of it, like a supply chain, for example, or real-world games, or incentivize people to go to certain places and stuff like that. And then we tried to scale it. We had all these devices and had worked on partnerships with SK Telecom, the South Korean telco, and T-Mobile, and a bunch of IoT providers. IT was really hot in 2018, and it was just difficult to explain to them, what we're doing, and then it was difficult for the crypto people to get our IoT devices because crypto the market was very small, and so we launched a mobile app called Coin a few years later. And with Coin, you just can download the app and participate in the XYO network. And now you're not only contributing location data, but you can collect other data, like other IoT data, let's say temperature sensor, or offline data like point of interest data or cloud data, or really any data. And then we validate and verify it through the XYO network, and then connect it with smart contract, sell it to Web2 companies and so on. And everything there is powered by the XYO token, which is listed on Coinbase and many other exchanges. And we have the devices, there's a Sentinels, which is the device which collects the data, then the bridges which relay the data, the archivist which stores the data, and then diviners which crunch the data. And all those devices, they are incentivized with XYO basically to participate in the network.
This might sound like a bit of a stupid question, Markus, but as a starting point, why did location, or why does location matter in terms of, because people think it's a decentralized network, so location shouldn't really matter that much. So what was the key sort of problem that you encountered that you felt like location really did matter and you wanted to sort of pinpoint it?
Yeah, we realized with data, we had a data company before, and we realized with data, location is often an important component. So if you speak about temperature, right, then the location of the temperature is important. Or if you speak about the reviews of a restaurant, right, then then the location of that restaurant is important. And or if you speak about those two people met and I don't know exchanged some property, for example. Where's that property? Where did that exchange take place? And so the location component makes it so that you have more certainty around data. So you say, okay, if I have the location attached to a data point, I can make sure that we really talk about the temperature here of the property here, or an e-commerce package which landed on your doorstep, let's say. And also we realize that the future is going to be much, much, much more location dependent. With everything being automated and more data flowing through it, you have more value attached to location, and with that come more nefarious actors. And we wanted to get the jump on that, and prevent that nefarious actors, are able to take advantage by spoofing location, for example.
Where does this sort of align in terms of increased use of, say, VPNs and sort of different proxies around the world? So how does this sort of, live in that sort of world?
We are basically VPN resistant. If you have enough devices and you say you have a device, like let's say our devices interact on the street, and then we are separating, and then we have other interactions, right? You have more and more relations, and then if your device jumps from London to Beijing, for example, right, and then has a bunch of interactions there in a tight circle, then something is wrong, and we can figure that out. And this way, right, you wouldn't be able to basically VPN your location through our network. We would figure that out and shut that down.
That's interesting. So it's VPN resistant in that regard. That's fairly impressive, because I know people use like very sophisticated VPNs in order to circumvent these sort of things.
VPNs have an important function, so I think, in the world, but also VPNs are used for bad things, right? To hack people and other things, and we want to prevent the bad stuff.
Yeah, it's an argument, isn't it? Because VPNs, certainly, I agree with you. They do cover up a lot of nefarious activities, but at the same time, it depends on your stance in terms of liberty and freedom when it comes to, say, people using it in countries where the internet access isn't 100% free. And in that regard, a lot of the time they are using VPNs just for sort of everyday activities. And so, I don't. That's basically my question to you, is like, they are out there in the world, and they're not all used for nefarious activities. A lot of them are, of course, but a lot of them are just used, to circumvent sort of, I guess, regulation, maybe more than anything.
Yeah. I agree. The vast majority of users, I think, are in that camp. The freedom camp.
Yeah. So where do you guys fit into that sort of like stance? Because if you want to go global, that's something that is difficult to navigate. No.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, we are OG crypto hippies. Like, we believe in no borders and like borderlessness, and
of course
that economies and opportunities are global. Like, your opportunity shouldn't be different than mine, and someone in Beijing shouldn't have a different opportunities than someone in Brazil. And so we believe in that, and our technology is open source, and you are able to access it anywhere. You can use it or not use it. So if you want to use it to track something, or make sure that you have a real interaction, or make sure that you're not cheated with, for example, then that's good. But you don't need to use our technology if you don't want to. If you want to hide somewhere, and don't use it, that's good. And but also, to speak about opportunity, like DePINs, they're great in that way, because they allow regular people to participate in the earning and the economic benefit of that particular project. Like, in our case, we have more than 8 million nodes. We are one of the largest DePINs as well. And today, more than 80% of the users in our network are non-crypto users when they join. But 95% they earn points now, instead of before it was XYO, but it was a little difficult for some people to understand. So now we have them earn points. Those points they can exchange for XYO, but also for airports and sweepstakes entries and different things. But 95% of them redeem for XYO. So we are onboarding millions of people into crypto, and we provide this ability to earn through our project and earn pretty well. We have some case studies. Some people like paid off their mortgage. Someone went on a 20-year delayed honeymoon.
Wow.
Someone got this new car. It's like these crazy stories, which people just by using our network and then being lucky, right, that our token appreciated in price here and there, and being a part of that story, And if you think about how transformational that can be, I was just in an article. There's an awesome journalist at Forbes about AI and crypto in Africa. If you think about it, like this DePIN, for example, you can enable someone in a village, right, to earn tokens, for example, right, and then maybe get some solar cells at a Starlink terminal if you're not connected to the grid, or in Asia or in the less connected communities, and that is just awesome, because I think it allows you to have this freedom and really it's existential change, like for you in London and for me in California. DePIN feels transformational already, but if you think about it, if you are in a society which is not that rich as ours, then I think it's absolutely mind-bogglingly transformational.
I completely agree. It's one of my favorite sort of aspects of DePIN markets, especially like if you think back, this isn't 100% a new thing where I think it was like people in the Philippines were playing Axie Infinity not because they liked the game, but because they could earn more Axie Infinity tokens, and they were paying, they were paying their landlords rents in Axie Infinity tokens. They were paying for it ended up becoming like tender in a lot of shops. Now, when that eventually sort of crashed, that Axie Infinity isn't really that big anymore. I saw DePIN as really sort of the next wave, which feels strange comparing it to sort of a Web3 game. But instead of farming a game, they can provide real world sort of utility for, decentralized energy, as you said, or providing connectivity for villages, or there's a lot of different things that you can unlock here, and it can be a sort of income generator for a lot of developing nations for sure. It's one of my favorite things about DePIN.
I completely agree. The difference with DePIN to Axie Infinity is the real business models.
Exactly, it's a sustainable business model.
Exactly, yeah. Axie Infinity is a little Ponzi in a way, right? It's like it's a bad word, but it's basically like you have to increase the pool size and so on. In DePIN, the aim for a lot of DePINs is to earn revenue and then to take that revenue and buy the token. We do that in our case. In 2023, we made $10.5 million in revenue, and also one of the most revenue generating DePINs. But then we take the money we get and put it into the network, and this way, you have a really sustainable token economy, and your token also works if the market goes down. As it's right now, it's a little bearish, and our project works, and the market's going to go better, and our project's maybe going to work a little better, but we go through these cycles, and it works because we build real business models, and that's just a good thing about DePIN.
Yeah, agreed. I would love to ask you, Markus, in terms of where is X? Because we talked about the sort of origin and where the business began. Where is XYO now? You mentioned 8 million nodes worldwide, which is incredible, and you mentioned sort of the revenue as well. So where is the business right now in terms of I guess like nodes, in terms of coverage, in terms of like I guess features as well. So what is the business right now, and then we'll go on to specific use cases.
Yeah, we are probably in almost every country in the world, and we are we're growing a lot in Asia right now specifically, and we have demand partners all over the world as well, which buys our data, which are data companies and Web3 companies, and with quite a few, and so we try to grow that more, and we just launched or announced that we're going to launch our layer one later this quarter, and on our layer one you can also enable more projects basically to connect there, and it's a way for DePINs and AI and RWA and data projects basically to connect and be a marketplace, and this way to have our whole community be lifted, and not only us as an individual project.
Mm. And I guess, like, how is the business molded? So how does it work right now in terms of like who you're targeting? What is the value? What is the utility? So sort of an end-to-end process of how the business works currently.
Yeah, let me first explain the structure maybe. So we are a little different than the most. We have like the XYO Foundation, and then we have a for-profit entity called XY Labs. And we launched, as I mentioned, in like 2018. So we wanted to be super transparent. It was right after the ICO boom. In the ICO boom, there were so many scammy projects. And so we launched both of those entities in the US. And then that led to certain restrictions. And so we have... then we were not able to sell our tokens in the US to non-accredited investors, which are basically investors which have under a certain wealth threshold. But we were the first crypto company in the US to be qualified by the SEC to be able to sell our shares under something called Regulation A to non-accredited investors. And so we got a lot of shareholders and a lot of token holders. And overseas, we were able to sell both shares and tokens. In the US, if you had over certain wealth, you were able to buy shares and tokens. If you didn't, then only the shares. And so we have the shareholders, and we also decided, once XYO got listed on the exchanges, but he said it's not fair to the shareholders not to have liquidity. So we went through a grueling process to become one of the first companies in the US to tokenize its shares, and we listed them on an alternative trading system. It's called T0 ATS, and which is tradable in like about 50 countries, and yeah, basically part of the RWA trend as well. And so this is our setup there, and we have tons of fans. And now it's easy in the US to buy the token. You can just buy it on Coinbase and other exchanges, right? And that's our basic setup. And from this, we said we want to be able to really get anyone into our ecosystem, right? And we realized that addressable market is very small if you just address it to crypto nerds like you and me. And so we that's why we launched the Coin App, and that's why now more than 80% of the users are non-crypto people, and those are people as like drivers, like Uber drivers, for example, or Grab drivers in Singapore, or joggers, and people who have more location, kind of generate more location. But also we have this group of nurses, and we have campaigns which go to people who like gamified features and people who earn crypto and want to dabble their feet in it, and so we have like this huge market, and we run ads around the globe to get those people and come in to be part of our community. And so because of that, I believe our growth is almost infinite. It's almost a world, right? Because anyone can really participate, and it's free. It's just you don't need to download it now.
Yeah, that's another reason. That's another thing that I've seen. I think the Mazzari 2024 report reported it very well in terms of the barrier to, I don't know, it wouldn't be called barrier to entry, but barrier to, I guess, be involved in a DePIN project now is far lower than it used to be. So it'd either be like a browser extension, like with Grass, or it'd be through downloading an app, or long are the days gone where you have to sort of download a node, and you still can do that. Of course you can do that. but that's more for the nerds, as you say, like me and you. And but that doesn't unlock the sort of accessibility for like the next sort of billion users or whatever. So I like that in terms of the barrier to entry is very low, as you said. Another thing I wanted to ask you is, so once these individuals come on your ecosystem and they run a node on, I'm assuming it'll be their phone. Where does that location data go? How does that use in the ecosystem?
It's we use something like proof of origin. So we tangle the data, and then the handshake basically between two devices that gets recorded now on our layer 1, and then but it's before it was like parallel chains. Basically now it's gonna go onto our layer 1, and then it can be used to, for example, say did your e-commerce package make it to your doorstep, and if it did, then pay the sender, for example. Or we just announced a partnership with Upland. It's like a metaverse where we are gonna create a gameplay. Basically, they're like a Monopoly metaverse kind of game, and where you can go in London and you walk around, and if you hit certain places, you get certain rights to buy a property or to have an NFT, or something happens in the game for you. And for that, for example, it can be used as well.
So to make it more simple for people who I guess like aren't maybe new to deep in space, I guess like a Pokemon Go style game, but sort of on chain per se. But that does sort of open up so many avenues for different experiences and games and things like that, for sure. I want to highlight that in terms of, I guess, what are the key sort of use cases that you've seen for XYO in terms of project building on top of you guys, in terms of business use cases. What are the key ones that you see in terms of what are the key ones that you see in the world?
Most of them are on-demand data generation, which it's mostly attached to location. Like, for example, give me all the ATMs in London, and then about that data generation, and then our DePIN nodes go and collect that data, and that's the most. But we have we built a backend where you basically should be able soon to like have like self-serve platform where you can go and ask for certain data generation yourself, right? And then you pay some XYO into that ecosystem, and then you can ask those nodes to collect that data yourself. And then, of course, in the GameFi space, we're growing a lot as well, and then physical asset tracking as well. We are with some RWA projects. We are working there. RWA Inc. I think we just announced, for example, where it's their layer 1 for real world assets, and it's important for them to be able to be tracked, and that this is your asset, and where does it come from, and where does it end up, and stuff like that.
What about, say, other key partnerships that you've seen that you're really excited about personally?
Most exciting one I'm not allowed to tell yet.
Second most exciting one.
Also not. The second most exciting one I hope we're going to announce next month. And then the other one shortly thereafter. They're going to be mind-boggling. But there's a lot of data partners we have. And what I wish we had more is that we had more Web3 partners. A lot of DePINs right now, we generate our revenue from not Web3, but from a lot of Web2 companies. And I think what's going to happen is our ecosystem is going to be more revenue is going to come from one DePIN, going to go to the other. I think some of the data storage and compute projects, they solved that, I think, but the others not so much yet. And I wish there would be more revenue generated coming from Web3. I think that's going to happen in 2025, and I think that's.
Talk to me more about that. So, what do you mean by like more revenue generation from Web3? Is that in terms of, I guess, cross collaboration with other DePIN projects, like or say sort of DeFi or RWA? Like, what are you referring to there?
Yeah, for example, a lot of DePINs, they need proof of location, for example, as well. but everybody's a lot of them are just starting out. In the last 2 years, has been such an onslaught, and so they are creating the protocol and their devices. They start collecting data, and then, for example, they realize that they think their nodes are somewhere distributed in the world, but they aren't. Right? Someone has them all in their basement and sends you fake data. And
or an AWS.
yeah, exactly. and XYO, for example, we can solve that. And we just announced a partnership with WeatherXM. It's like Weather DePIN to provide some solution around that. And so that with those partnerships, right, the money or funds flow from WeatherXM basically to us, to our token holders, and maybe something flows back to them, and so on. And so you have more an economy among Web3 projects. That I think that's important. While we also have the partnerships with Web2 projects.
And do you see that side growing fast in the next sort of few years? Because it wouldn't just be DePIN projects, right? It would also be sort of RWA projects. So say tokenization of supply chains or tokenization of commodities. You need to sort of know where they are in the world. And you need to know sort of where their origins are. For instance, I was talking to a precious metals RWA company. They tokenize precious metal trading, so they need to know where the metals are being traded. A lot of that is right now on not even Excel spreadsheets, on pen and paper. So putting that onto sort of a blockchain is such a stark innovation, and having proof of location or not proof of location, having location data that's trustless is extremely important in that sense. So yeah, do you see which areas maybe of DePIN, which areas of Web3 do you see as the biggest sort of opportunities or the biggest sort of use cases when it comes to location?
RWA is going to be huge. I think you're right there. It's going to be bigger than the utility tokens, because it's the whole world could be RWA. The only thing holding it back is government regulation, I think. But you have some positive movement there in the US on regulation, I think, and that pushes on the world. You see India suddenly is changing because I think of the US position, and the Indian market crypto market is huge, and so I think the world will change a bit over the next few years, and I think you will see RWAs really explode, and the world will be much more DePINified in a way.
Agreed.
Yeah, and that way I think everything will come together, and I think you will have proof of location like ours, for example, proves RWA's existence and where they are and so on. And that's going to be like $1 trillion markets, I think, we are talking about.
Yeah, for sure. I think people maybe they're a bit new to the Web3 space. Like I've been in crypto for a long time, but my formal sort of start into working in Web3 was in the NFT space. And people think of NFTs in terms of sort of PFP projects and things like that. And obviously they're not as popular as they used to be in terms of on-chain activity and sale value and stuff like that. But what really got me excited about NFT technology was the fact that you can tokenize both physical assets and digital assets. And that's basically what RWA has become, is tokenizing real world assets. And they're not called NFTs, but the technology is fundamentally the same. And so one layer that's maybe missing right now in order for regulation is a massive one, admitted. However, you do need proof of location for a lot of these assets. Otherwise, the trust won't be there in terms of people exchanging these tokenized assets. And so, yeah, I think personally, from your side, that would be a huge sort of explosion once regulation does become a bit more lax.
I totally, yeah. We had a proof of concept done with Remax Mexico, where in Mexico you have the problem that the recording of a title change. So if you sell a property, it takes a long time. Can take a year, 2, sometimes 3 years. And in the meantime, the property can get sold several times. And so there's fraud going on. And then the property doesn't really exist. It's not at that location. people didn't have the interactions and so you have to meet in a notary in Mexico to sign over the property. And so we were working on something that we can basically prove that the property, is where it is, right? And then that two people met at the notary to exchange of the property, basically, and then it immediately gets recorded in the new title register. It's basically instant, and so you don't have that fraud capability. And so, and this model you can transfer onto anything, which is really a real world lesson.
And I think that would be massive. It would be huge. People, again, if people are new to the Web3 space, they see the meme coins at the moment. They see sort of, we're looking a bit bearish at the moment, but in the grand scheme of things, like Bitcoin is what it is, ETFs and things like that. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. But if you do zoom out entirely, most of the world's value isn't in currency and sort of crypto. Most of the world's value is in assets. It's locked away in assets. And, once tokenization, RWA, takes force, I think that's when sort of things will explode in that sense. So yeah, no, something like what you guys are doing, XYO, I think makes a ton of sense in unlocking that next wave, because it solves a ton of problems as well. So yeah, very excited in that regard. I would love to ask you as well, more of a general question, Markus, is I guess where do you see the future of where you guys are going?
Where we are going, I think it's going to be huge. We're going to connect the world. Basically, we're going to be at the heart of the DePINification and RWA. So it's going to be big, and it's easy to onboard with our apps and IoT as well. And so it's going to grow, and our layer 1 is going to enable that. And so, yeah, I think it's going to be just massive.
And in terms of roadmap for where you guys are going, I know you got to be tight-lipped about these things, but is there anything that you can like call out?
Yeah, we just announced the layer 1 this month, and so we're gonna have over 2025 lots of announcements around the layer 1, like features and partnerships and maybe those kinds of things. Yeah.
Okay, perfect, nice, excited to see that. Very last question. We're going to wrap up the podcast fairly soon, but a question that I love to ask all of my guests, Markus, before we end the podcast, and it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, is what is your favorite use case of DePIN outside of what you guys are immediately doing?
I touched on it, I think, in the but it's UB, Universal Basic Income, basically. I think DePIN enables that, to give you like absolute freedom, right, to be your own master in life, right, and control your destiny. And so I'm excited that DePIN enables that. And then of course the combination like RWAs and how DePIN is going to enable RWAs to exist, basically, and to grow.
How would universal basic income work in your world? It's been talked about a lot.
Yeah. I think our notes, we have these stories, where someone paid down their mortgage, when someone went on a 20-year delayed honeymoon, someone else owned like $1.6 million. So I think so the coin, I would say they were lucky, right, when they cashed out. Someone came to me at the conference and said, "Oh, I cashed out $400,000 out of the coin," and he was a Uber driver. And then I was in Australia at lunch. Someone hunted me down at a conference and told me he was a retired trucker and he wants to invite me to lunch. And he retired because he used the coin app and cashed out to XYO at the right time, and he still has a lot of XYO, and he helped someone to start a business with $400,000, and it's just these crazy stories, and then of course you need to be lucky for that to happen, my tokens go up and down, but that's just the story and the potential of crypto, I think, and I'm so excited about that, and how transformational it is really for the world.
Completely agree. That is very, very cool. That's very, very cool. I've not heard that before on the podcast, so that is definitely a first. Very, very cool. Before we wrap up the podcast, Markus, it'd be great for, I'm sure people want to know more about you, know more about the business, but also know how they can get involved as well. They want to retire from or like pay off their mortgage, have a honeymoon, whatever. I know, as you said, like tokens go up and down. But yeah, please, where can people find you guys?
Yeah. If you want to be involved, if you want to be building your own project, we have an ecosystem fund, for example. You can reach us under partnerships at XYO.network and just send an email there. Or if you want to be involved in some other ways, then of course XYO.network is our website. Sign up for our newsletter, follow us on Twitter under XYO. Should find us easily. And once you're there, then we capture you and we'll send you to all the other channels and events.
Fantastic. Markus, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And I'm sure we'll chat very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you for listening to today's discussion, brought to you by Minima, the real world blockchain. The only layer 1 blockchain lean and compact enough to run in full on any mobile or IoT device. If you're new to DePIN, subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on Twitter to stay up to date. Thank you so much again. We'll catch you in the next episode.